This Sunday is the 25th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year B. The first reading this Sunday is from the Book of Wisdom. We spoke about the Book of Wisdom on the 13th Sunday of Ordinary Time this year. This Sunday we hear a description of evil things that people might sometimes do to others, testing God with cruelty, similar in nature to what happened to Jesus at the time of his crucifixion. The second reading this Sunday is again from the book of James. James argues that the disharmony and wicked things done within our communities can be traced back to bad motivations within ourselves. And in the Gospel this week, again from Mark, Jesus tells his disciples that he will be killed. But the disciples don't engage with that. Instead, they start arguing with one another about which of them is the greatest. Before the 1960s, Masses were in Latin, including the Gospel readings, which were mainly from Matthew. Most of the congregation could not understand the readings. In 1962, Pope John XXIII called together bishops from all over the world for a series of meetings that became known as Vatican II. The Pope's plan was to update the Church so that it could connect better with a changing world. He said, "I want to throw open the windows of the Church so that we can see out and the people can see in." The Pope understood what Father Frank O'Loughlin says in his latest book, Into the Future. Dealing with change is not an option, but the way we deal with change is. The bishops at Vatican II decided that Masses all over the world should be held in the local language, or vernacular, so that the congregation can understand, and that the Sunday Mass should repeat over a 3-year cycle, so that the congregation can hear and learn more of the Word of God. A committee was set up, called the Concilium, to implement the changes required by Vatican II. That group organised the readings for the new Masses, and in 1969 published the new Order of Readings for Mass. And that's what we work with today. Generally, the first reading each Sunday is chosen to throw light on the Gospel and to show how Jesus fulfills the promises of the Old Testament. The second reading each Sunday is from one of the Apostles' letters in the New Testament, and we generally have several Sundays in a row from each letter. So, for example, this Sunday is the 4th of 5 in a row from James. Sometimes the second reading doesn't particularly relate to the first reading in the Gospel, but sometimes they line up beautifully, like this week. The theme of all the readings this week is the tension between good and evil. The point is that evil exists in the world and that the blame for that lies within each of us, even with people as good as the disciples. The opportunity we have is to bring out the best in ourselves. And this week, Jesus tells us how. He says to his disciples, "If anyone wants to be first, they must make themselves last of all."